this is your spoiler warning. If you have yet to see Season 8, Episode 4 of Game of Thrones, The Last of the Starks, then you have just a couple of seconds to click off now, but if you're going to stick with me, then let's get into some serious spoilers. So this episode opens with the opening credit sequence, and it's really cool because it shows the aftermath of the last episode. I mean, even in the intro, then we just see Winterfell is totally messed up, which I think is really a nice touch. They've always had, the opening credits match what's happened in the show, which I just think is a really neat touch. I just think that's cool to see. So then also after that, we open and we see just the piles and piles and piles of dead bodies. Just so many people dead. It's hard to say how many for sure. Honestly, it actually looks like that's not even all of the dead people that there would be based off of what we saw in the last episode. I could be wrong, but it really, really seems like there should be more, but it's not a big deal. But it is still a really effective visual just seeing that many dead people. And then during this scene, everyone, they say goodbye to the people that they knew. We see different characters like Jorah and Dany and Sansa and Theon and just all the people that we've lost. And it's just a really good scene, and it's just done really well. And then we have a scene where everyone has, I wouldn't call it a feast, but everyone has a meal, and it's just kind of somber, and everyone's like, people are trying to have a good time, but it's got this very distinctive feel to it, which I really like, of like, they've won, but it's not really right. I mean, lots of these people have survived, and that's something that works really well in this episode, is just this feeling of, oh, we've won, but it's not over. There's more to it, and it's not going to be as easy as, everyone would like it to be. So I really like this shot of Sansa and Jon and Dany. What it represents and just the look of it. It's just a really nice shot. And there's lots of moments throughout here, and I won't be able to get to them all, but there's some good stuff. We see people like, of course, Davos. He has a conversation with Tyrion, and that's some good stuff. And of course Gendry gets his moment, which is cool because he is named the Lord of, I thought it would come to me, but it didn't. I don't remember the name of the place, because actually when she said the name of the place that he's the Lord of, I was like, wait, have I heard of that before? And I guess probably a long time ago, but the Baratheons haven't been major players in this show in a long time, so it kind of makes sense that I don't really remember their, place, their location. But he's named the Lord of the Baratheon place. He's made a real Baratheon, so. And then Dany has this comment where she mentions, "Oh, I'm not the only one who's clever, Tyrion." And it's a good moment. And there's lots of stuff throughout here. Tormund is delightful. I love Tormund. He's so much fun. And this shows Jon's conflict between just his loyalty to his Stark side and his Targaryen side, and it's just all done really well, and I enjoy watching it and seeing how much, like, even just this shot, we see how much Dany is an outsider. She's back there while Tormund is making such a big deal about Jon and how great he is and how amazing a ruler he'd be, stuff like that, how he died and came back to life. It's just really well done. They played this drinking game, which is fun. We've seen Tyrion play this before, and it's nice to see it recur just because it's very much a Tyrion thing. He scares away Brienne when he says she's a virgin, and then she leaves, and Tormund, he gets in the way and he starts talking to her, and he's just so much fun. Of course, it's never going to work out for Tormund. It was never going to, but it's just fun to see him try, and he's just such an amusing character, so I love watching that. But yeah, he tries, doesn't work, she leaves, and then Jaime goes off with her, which is interesting. We have this scene with the Hound and Sansa, which I really like, where she says if all this bad stuff hadn't happened to her, then she would still be the little bird that she was, after he tells her that if she had gone with him, then she'd be fine. None of that bad stuff would have happened to her. And I just really like that moment because that's totally true to who Sansa is. And we've got this moment where Gendry, God, he proposes to Arya, and it's like, oh no, that's not gonna work out, and it doesn't work out. She says, no, any lady would be lucky to have you, but I'm not a lady. That's not me, which is, the line she has. I think it's in Lord of Snow from season 1, episode 3. I think it's in that episode. I'm not entirely sure. Where her dad, Ned Stark, is like, oh, you'll grow up and you'll be a lady and you'll have sons and daughters and you'll marry like a prince or what have you, and you'll have a castle. And then she's like, no, that's not me. And then she goes back up the stairs to practice balancing. So that's a really nice callback. They also did that back in season 7 with Nymeria. Anyway, that was good stuff. So then moving on, we have the scene with Jaime and Brienne, which was very surprising. I didn't expect it to go this way, but ultimately it kind of makes sense that these two who have shared so much time together, and that she finally would open up to him, which I don't have anything to say right now, but I am absolutely going to come back to that towards the end of this review. So we have this scene which is really good between Jon and Dany, where they're like trying to be in the mood and stuff, and then it just feels wrong for him, and she's like, they're trying to make it work, but then there's this whole thing where he believes he has to tell his sisters, he has to be honest with them about who he is, and she's telling him, no, don't do that because that's going to ruin everything. Sansa's going to tell people, and she'll want you on the throne, but if you keep it a secret, then we can make this work. And she's totally right. I totally agree with her, but I don't understand why he wants to be honest with the people that he's known all his life. It makes sense. I do ultimately think it would have worked out better if he hadn't told her, obviously, but it happened, and then that happens. So we have this scene where everyone's planning for, they're like, oh, this is how many people we have left. We have this many troops. We lost half of the Unsullied. We lost this many Dothraki. That guy doesn't have any lines, I don't think. But it does feel like they lost less people than I believed they had from what I saw last week. It seemed like they had lost like 90% of their people. It does feel like they lost less people than I believed they had from what I saw last week. It seemed like they had lost like 90% of their people, but now they're saying it's like half or maybe a little more, I'm not sure. So it's like, oh, I guess that's how they're playing it, which is, it only bothers me a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, but I do wish they had balanced that a little better, of like, oh, we maybe just had them lose more people, or maybe just, I don't know. It's hard to say, but whatever. It's just worth mentioning. There's this moment I really like at the end of the scene where, so what happens is that Sansa says they want the troops to recover, and then Dany's like, hey, I came up here at great expense to help you fight for the North, and now when it's your turn to reciprocate, then you're like, later. So then Jon's like, hey, well, it's okay, we'll do it. And then at the end of the scene, then Arya comes up to him and he's like, we need to have a word, and that's great. So we do have this scene where all the Starks get to talk, and it's just a good scene, and ultimately Jon tells them that of his true lineage, and yeah, that happens. We don't, or actually Bran tells them, but we don't see it, which kind of makes sense to me. I heard people complain about this, which is interesting. I understand wanting to see their reaction, but the thing is, we've seen this information passed around so many times already. Like, we saw it in the first couple of episodes, we saw it before then, and then heck, we even knew some of it way back in season 6. So just seeing it passed again is like, oh gosh, we've seen this before. I think it is more effective to not show us, but if you have an issue with that, that's fine. So let's skip forward. We have Bronn. Oh my gosh, Bronn comes back. So as soon as he showed up, I was kind of not that worried. I was still a little bit worried, but I was like, Bronn's not gonna do anything, because first of all, it was really like halfway into the episode, so there was no way he was gonna kill one of them. But also, like, just the way the show's written, it did seem unlikely that they were going to follow through with what they had set up of him killing one of them. It seemed more likely that something else would happen, although I wasn't sure what, but what transpired does ultimately make sense. So he's going to get Highgarden if they win, and we'll see how that goes down. It might end up working out differently. Maybe once he hears about the events later in the episode, he'll change his mind and say, actually, once I found out about that, then I'm going to change my mind, because it's more likely that I'll be able to do that. if I said Cersei. I could totally see that happening, but you know, we'll see. He just plays to his best interests. So of course we have this great moment between the Hound and Arya. They're both heading to King's Landing. That's going to be awesome, and they leave before Jon, meaning in theory that they're going to be their next episode, which I'm super excited to see. Hopefully we get the Clegane Bowl next episode, and hopefully Arya doesn't die, because that would be unfortunate. I don't want her to die. Yeah, obviously he's going there to kill his brother, and she's going there to kill Cersei. Or possibly, if Cersei gets killed without her, she might kill Ilyn Payne, because that actor, even though Ilyn Payne hasn't been in the show, you know, the actor's still around. It's possible that they've put him in here without telling anyone. I just think that's worth keeping in mind. So anyway, Sansa, of course, tells Tyrion, and then it spreads. Word spreads. So yeah, that was no real surprise, and Sansa does lose a few points from me for doing this, but you know, I wouldn't expect any less. Whatever. She's still a good character, and it just it makes sense for her. So moving forward, we have this goodbye from Tormund, and I do expect we won't be seeing Tormund again this season. He's gone up north. We have 3 episodes left. We're going down south. That's going to be it. He was a great character. He's been here, gosh, since like season 2, I think. He's great. I love Tormund. It's a shame that we're probably done with him for now. So after that, we have this scene with Gilly and Sam and Jon. It turns out she's pregnant, and then when they call the kid Jon, and he's like, "Oh, I hope not. Hope it's a girl." And that's a nice scene. And I think we're basically done with those characters too. I mean, I do think we'll see them probably in the final episode, but we're not going to see them next episode. I would be surprised if we did. So this is an interesting scene, because Jon he doesn't say really goodbye to Ghost or go pet him or hug him or anything. Like, we just see Ghost over there, and then Jon like gives him like a tiny little nod. Like, dude. We have this scene with Missandei and Grey Worm, and they're honestly so cute. I love them both. And this scene just reminded me, I was like, yeah, they both survived. I really expected her to die last week, but that adds to like the feeling of like, oh, look at all these people who survived. And then the episode is like, it doesn't matter if they survived, because they're not going to. So then we have the scene with Tyrion and Varys, and it's so good. We don't get this much Varys. We haven't gotten this much Varys since probably like episode 2 of season 7, you know, a long time. So it's great to see Varys back, and just these scenes with Varys and Tyrion, I could just watch that all episode and be entertained. I love these scenes. And there's this bit where he's like, how many people know, including us? 8. And then he's like, well, it's not a secret anymore. Varys says it's information, which is totally true. But yeah, that's a really good scene. So then from that we go up and we see these dragons flying around, and it's like an hour in, you know, they're just flying, or they're about to get to Dragonstone, if I recall correctly. Yeah, they're going to Dragonstone, and then from out of nowhere, just Rhaegal gets taken down. 3 shots, 1 in the chest, 1 clips his wing, and then the 3rd shot's the deadly one, because he could have survived the other 2 if he managed to get out of the way. And it goes right through his neck. And that shot, I'm not going to show it very well here, but that shot, it looks disgusting. You know, it's like, oh my god, he just got taken down. Like, you just see how bad that was, because that was like, whoa, that's it. You know, he was taken down. It just showing how quickly it was like, whoa, this is not safe. It was really, really quite a shocking moment. And then after that, you know, we just lose Rhaegal. We see him fall into the ocean, and that's it. And then we see that from around the corner of this little island, then there were about, how many of these ships? I don't know, like 8, 16. I really don't know. It was about that many. We're gonna say 12. There were 12 of these ships. A decent amount. It might not have been that many, but we see that they have these much more advanced scorpions that can like maneuver around and reload quickly, and it's like, whoa, this is some serious business. And of course we see Euron, and he aims for Daenerys, and she, at this point, she's so upset, she's pissed, she just goes for it, and she just goes for it, and she is ready to just try to take these people out. And by the way, it looks like there's about 11 of these ships. So she's just going for it, and then she's just so upset, and then they all shoot at her. Okay, all of them, and then she's like, she realizes she can't do it, and Drogon goes up to the side, gets out of there, fortunately manages to make it away unscathed, and then we just see the dragon go off into the distance, and the sights realign to the ship, and it's like, whoa, and then boom, just like that, just the whole thing we just see how quickly these shred through these ships, and everyone's falling off, and this is a great shot with Tyrion where there's everything going around him, and he jumps into the water, and then he gets clubbed by the mast, boom. So then we cut to black, and we don't really see much more, but we do see that a bunch of them made it to the water, and Tyrion's alive, Varys is alive, and then we see Grey Worm looking for Missandei, and I was like, oh my god, I bet he's gonna find her in the water. Fortunately, he didn't. But then we cut to Cersei, and Euron's telling her how he killed the dragon. He saw it fall, and then we show how she's letting all of these people into the Red Keep, right? And oh my god, it's kind of genius. She's really smart, but she's so messed up. She's a great villain in this show, but she's really messed up. I don't understand how anyone could side with her. Like, oh, it's great. And then we see Missandei has been captured, and it's like, oh my gosh. And at first I was like, how would they know? How would they know Missandei's of any importance? Why wouldn't they just kill her? But then I remembered, I think she was in the dragon pit, because they were all gathered together. There was about, I don't know, some 20, 30 people there, and yeah, she was there, so they would know, oh, this person's important. Or Euron would, at least. And then we have this bit where Varys is talking to Dany, and he's saying, I told you, if I ever thought you were making a mistake, and this is a mistake. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I love Varys. And she's like, I have to do this. I swore to get rid of tyrants. You know, I swore to, like, break the wheel. She doesn't say it in those words, but that's what she swore to do. And then we have this great scene between Tyrion and Varys, which goes as far as them basically discussing treason, which is like shocking. Like, what's going to happen? Is Daenerys going to win next episode and then get murdered? Is someone going to try to murder her and then get murdered by Drogon? Is Drogon going to die next episode? I kind of think so. I'm not sure anymore because we already lost a dragon. But it's like, gosh, there's so much that could happen. That was a great scene. And then Jaime, of course, finds out about the dragon dying, and then we have this scene with him and Brienne, and oh my god, this is a heartbreaking scene because, you know, she finally opens up to someone, and it's Jaime. And then Jaime's like, I'm not a good person, and I'm gonna leave now, so goodbye. And he's like, both these actors are amazing in this scene, by the way, but he leaves, and it's like, oh my god, wow, damn, I can't believe that he did that. It's just a great scene. It's really heartbreaking. He just leaves her there crying. Now, it's hard to say because he could totally be heading to King's Landing to try to reason with Cersei, to try to kill Cersei, or it is possible that he is just going there to be with Cersei. I really don't know, but I will find out probably. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Like, I could get into my theories and stuff, but, you know, I'm not going to do that here. So then we have this scene outside of King's Landing in a location we haven't seen before, which I kind of wish they'd set up, because it does bother me a little bit when they do locations that we haven't seen before, and it's like, oh, you kind of expect us to get this where it is, and, you know, you can figure it out really quickly because we see everything behind there, but I do wish they'd shown it up. So everyone's here. We see that Missandei is up on top of this platform, and we see that they have tons of these much more advanced scorpions, although it does appear these ones aren't as advanced as the ones that Euron had. It looks to me like they're not as easy to reload, but I could be mistaken. But they've just got like you can see somewhere around a dozen of these things just up here, which could just like presumably take out a dragon pretty quickly if Drogon was to try to attack. So that's great. We see all these people up here, and then we see that Drogon is really far back there, and it does bother me how close Drogon is. I wish Drogon was just a little bit further away. But then, you know, Dany and her people came up here with very few people, right? Like, they could be taken out quickly. So, you know, Cersei is clearly choosing not to take them out. It's possible she just wants to have them storm King's Landing and murder lots of people, because she's really messed up and she might wants to ruin her reputation, you know, because she plays those games. I think that's a legitimate possibility. Anyway, so we see Tyrion go to talk to Qyburn, and they have, at a certain point, he's like, man, screw this, and he just goes up to talk to Cersei directly, and he talks to her and he tries to convince her what to do, you know, what's right, to let Missandei go and to you know, think of her child. And it was never going to work. It didn't work. We see all these expressions on people's faces, and everyone does a really good job in this scene. We see Missandei, this actress, Natalie, she is great in this scene. Lena is great in this scene. Emilia is great in this scene. And of course, gosh, I can't think of his name. The actor who plays Grey Worm is great in this scene. Oh, I can't remember it. It's just great. She looks to Grey Worm, and then she looks to Khaleesi, and she says Dracarys, and just the looks on everyone's faces, and then she's just up there, and it's like, oh god. And then Cersei, with this messed up face, she gives the mountains look, and Grey Worm, he's so upset. He just wants to be with his Missandei of Naath, and if he could save her, he would. And then of course the mountain does it, and he takes that big sword and just takes her out. And this is a really effective scene. We see her head and her body just fall from the battlements separately and out of focus, and that worked really well. I'm glad I didn't have to see that up close, because she's a beloved character in my eyes. And yeah, his reaction is fantastic. Cersei is amazing in this scene. She's so messed up. She's an incredible villain. And then just Daenerys, just so upset. This final shot, we see the fire in her eyes as she's walking away. It's great. It's really, really great. And just what it sets up for next episode, just her being unleashed and going basically Mad Queen. It's really exciting for what's coming next, and it's really well done how this is set up, and just the end of this episode is absolutely fantastic. And this episode, all the stuff that it's done, it's just really, really great setup, transitioning from last episode straight into this one. And I really like these 80-minute episodes because they can really pack a lot into this. They can just do so much of they got from that location to this location. They did mess with time a little bit, you know, they jumped forward, which I'm totally fine with. I don't understand those complaints, but yeah, that was really well done. Overall, I thought this episode was absolutely fantastic. We have this great opening, like 40 to 50 minutes spent up in Winterfell, just basically allowing us to digest what happened and have some of these just really entertaining moments and some of these really uncomfortable moments, and just people being people and all of that stuff. The loyalty of Jon, where that resides, if he's more of a Stark or more of a Targaryen, that's all really well done. And then the transition into King's Landing, into all of that drama as Rhaegal gets taken down in a really shocking moment. Just as that arrow comes out of nowhere, I was like completely my jaw was meeting the floor in that moment. It was just so shocking. And then that was a great scene, and then we've got some more great stuff. And then of course the final scene was just absolutely fantastic. Missandei's death, it's up there. It is a fantastic death, and her final words, Dracarys, as she inspires Daenerys, burn them all to the ground. You know, it is a really great way to transition into the next episode, which I'm super excited for. And I just think it's done amazingly. This episode is really well done. There's tons of great moments, and there's a couple of moments, particularly the two deaths and those particular scenes, that I just think are absolutely fantastic. And as great as Rhaegal's death was, Missandei's death is really the one that speaks to me from this episode, because I mean, we had already seen a dragon die before, so even as shocking as that was, that death was done differently, because the previous dragon death, we kind of saw, we were like, no, this isn't happening. This isn't happening, as the Night King took his spear, his javelin, and we're like, oh no, you know? But then it just happened. But this one just came out of nowhere, so this one was brutally shocking. Took 30 seconds, it was down. crazy stuff. But Missandei's death was really, I cared about that character, and it was really sad to see that happen and how it affected everyone else. That was really, really fantastic death. So this episode was fantastic, tons of fantastic stuff, great transition from the long night into this battle that we're going to be getting at King's Landing, where everything's going to go down. It's going to be insane. I'm super excited for what's to come, and I thought this episode was great. It's probably my second favorite of the season, and I'm going to give The Last of the Starks a rating of 9.75 out of 10. If you join me next week, I should have a review out of, I don't know, some classic Doctor Who episode, I'm sure. I think it's Marco Polo, and of course I will be trying to review episode 5 of season 8 of Game of Thrones, possibly called Dracarys. We'll see. I heard that somewhere, and I thought that was a great title for next episode. But yeah, wow, I'm loving this season. I know that people have their issues with it. I have very few issues with it, and I'm so happy that I'm loving this season, because if I was disappointed by this season, I would be really upset, because I love this show. It's one of my favorite shows ever, and this season being great is really important. In fact, next episode is super important to this season just being successful, because if next episode isn't great, like by great I mean, one of the best, then this season really is not going to be remembered that favorably. I do think, obviously, people, I'm speaking more about myself. Like, if next episode is like, oh, that was like a good episode, like 9 out of 10, it's gonna be like, oh well, But I don't know. We'll see. For other people, I'm sure, I think it's even more important, because if you were disappointed in The Long Night, if that's not the stuff you cared about, if you cared more about the stuff at King's Landing and the Game of Thrones stuff, because this is very much Game of Thrones stuff. It feels like a classic Game of Thrones episode from like early seasons, like 2, 3, 4, that kind of stuff. This feels like that Game of Thrones drama, that Game of Thrones political stuff. We even have Varys and Tyrion. Like, this episode really felt like classic Game of Thrones, because for the past 10 episodes, all we've cared about is, oh my god, the Night King is I mean, not all, but it got into that stuff where it was like, this is the end of the world, and then it was over, and then it has to transition into all of this stuff. And I thought this was all handled really, really well. I thought they did an amazing job of making that switch, and I just think it's all done well. And I also will say this: I like how many, I'm gonna still call them scorpions, how many scorpions they have at King's Landing, because it makes sense. A good amount of time has passed, and they've not been doing nothing. Even though we haven't seen them, they have been preparing for when they come back. So that's all really well done. So I'm super excited for that stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be reviewing episode 5 hopefully next week, and I'll be reviewing Marco Polo, Doctor Who episode, and then that's going to be that. So yeah, if you're interested in either of those, join me next week. If not, that's totally fine. Thank you for joining me today. I very much appreciate it. But that's going to do it for now, folks. Thank you for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.